Good morning, friends of Ascension, and welcome to the fifth Sunday of Lent. If we were all together today, we would be having a rich service, but we can't be, so I hope that you will do what you can to enrich your spiritual life on this Sunday morning. And I hope, too, that you will look at the links that are available to the Sunday readings, because this week they are particularly good readings for the situation that we all find ourselves in. It begins with the collect of the day, in which we pray that among the swift and varied changes of the world, our hearts may surely there be fixed, where true joys are to be found. Isn't that what we're praying for so fervently? That among the swift and varied changes of this crazy world, our hearts may surely there be fixed where the true joys, the joys of God's love and our relationship with Christ are firmly in hand, that's where our hearts are. And if we were all together, we would then hear that most famous reading from the prophet Ezekiel, the story of the dry bones. Ezekiel, who we don't hear from very often except for this and a couple of other stories, prophesied at a time when Israel had been totally defeated by the Babylonians and taken into captivity. It's a period of decades in which one group and then another group of people from Israel are taken into captivity, and Ezekiel was one of them. And it was the period of the greatest defeat for them as a people. Their city was destroyed, their towns and villages, and they were captive. And in the midst of that, Ezekiel has this vision from God of a valley of dry bones, just dried up bones. And God says to him, Ezekiel, can these bones live? And Ezekiel, you can hear him say to himself, doesn't look too likely to me. But he says, I don't know, God, you know. And God says, prophesy to the bones. Ezekiel prophesies to the bones, and God blows breath on them, and they begin to pull together into their bodies and take flesh again and live. And God says to Ezekiel, Ezekiel, this is the people of Israel. Tell them that they may feel like a valley of dry bones in this moment, but the Spirit of God will pour out on them, and they will be reborn again. Of course, that's related to the gospel that we hear as well, which is that lovely story about Lazarus, the friend of Jesus who is sick, near to death, and they send to him, and Jesus doesn't go. And he waits until he gets word that Lazarus has died. And then he goes, and he greets Mary and Martha, and they pour out their grief to him. And not just their grief, but a little bit of annoyance that he didn't come sooner. And he sees through their grief and their anger and their pain, and he sees beyond all of that the power of God to bring healing to them all. And it's in that setting that he shouts out to Lazarus, Lazarus, come out, and he lives again. It's a glorious story, and it is the high point of the Gospel of John, because from this point on, everyone in power is terrified of Jesus, and at this power to reach across the boundary of death. This is Jesus, the God who you and I believe in and adore. this God who brings power and life to dry bones, this God who can reach across the boundaries of death and bring life again to Lazarus, and who brings it again to Christ in 2 weeks' time. This is our God. This is our sustenance for this morning. I pray that you will draw close to these stories and be with open hearts for the power of God's Spirit moving in your heart and in your home and in this world, that we may all together know the new life that he has in store for us. And of course, every week we should be singing. Last week, of course, we were busy singing, "Rejoice in the Lord always." And of course, this week, you'll be wanting to sing, "Dem bones, dem, dry bones, dem, bones, dem, dry bones, dem, bones, dem, dry bones, hear the word of the Lord.